All right. Hello, everybody. How y'all doing? All doing good? Not too hungry yet? No, maybe I am. Cool. So yeah, who am I? This is me, obviously. I'm Elian van Cutsem. I'm the lead developer at React Bricks, which is a CMS company. I'm not going to talk too much about that today. I will show you an example though. Um, I do freelance work on the side as well. I'm a CTO at Vilpo, which is a Belgian tech company. It's quite small, so nothing too big. I'm a maintainer of the open source framework Astro that I'm going to talk about today, mostly. I'm also a member of the BGS team. That's the Belgian JavaScript Federation, basically, where we also organize conferences in Belgium, Paris. We did Africa as well. So I'm quite busy in general because I also on the side have devs.ghent, which is like a smaller conference and meetup group as well in my hometown of Ghent in Belgium. Anybody been to Belgium already? Hey, cool, nice. You should come to Ghent. It's pretty fun. All right. So on socials, you can find me on @AlienCodes on almost all platforms. It's pretty cool. I give a lot of deep dives, but also a lot of memes. So if you're into that, that's also fun. And first of all, of course, big thank you for Porto Tech Hub to have me here because it's a lot of fun that I can fly in from Belgium and then, of course, give a presentation here about hopefully something that you're interested in. Not many today, but I hope at least you're interested in that. So that's really cool. Also, that's my flight map of just last year. So I do a lot of flights for conferences. So yeah, pretty busy man. Now, what is Astro? Most of you, if you already heard of Astro, it will ring a bell. It's not the new kid on the block anymore. It used to be that for like, I don't know, a year and a half, 2 years ago maybe. But now it's actually getting more and more known, and people are slowly shifting over to it as well. Especially a lot of people from like Next and Next, because it's like a little bit different. But when I talk about Astro and say like, what is Astro actually? Well, for me, that is Astro is a web framework driven for content-driven websites. Now, content-driven, it will make a lot more sense if I show you what it's about. So it's very comparable to any meta framework like 10-stack query or Next or Nuxt, all of those. A meta framework, basically, with some cool twists. And in those twists, I will explain to you. But first, what does the syntax look like? Because everybody, of course, wants to have a syntax that's familiar. Well, it does look a lot like JSX. It's not JSX completely, but it's JSX-like. So if you've ever programmed in React, it should feel very similar. Basically, JSX in the body, or JSX-like, and then on the top you can use TypeScript or JavaScript depending on what you prefer. We don't make assumptions, but typically for me that's of course TypeScript. Cool thing about Astro is that by default it will never ship any JavaScript to the browser. By default, that is because there is some cases where you might need it, of course, because buttons and shit need to work. So imagine that we have this page in a normal application in a meta framework like Nuxt or Next. JavaScript meta frameworks, to be clear. All the different components here on that page, it's a very rough wireframe, but it's just to give you an idea. Higher JavaScript actually doesn't make a lot of sense, because why would I need JavaScript to render my footer links or my image slider? Yeah, that actually makes sense. But text bodies, why do I need JavaScript there? That doesn't make sense. So what Astro did is that by default, it will just statically compile everything down to just HTML and CSS like the browser was intended to be. Now, of course, it has some disadvantages and some advantages, but the big advantage is, of course, accessibility, best practices, SEO by default will get very up, which is amazing because performance is something that we all strive to have. Now, that's why I say ideal for content-driven. Think of blogs, markets, all of those, because those actually drive on content. Why are you clicking on a blog? Because you want to read it, not because you want to see all the ads on the site. Stuff like that. Now, of course, I hear you thinking, what if I need interactivity? I want a button on mobile that actually works. And yeah, sure, you can do it with CSS only as well, but we're not in the 90s anymore. We want to have some JavaScript. Well, for that, we invented the client directives. And client directives basically give you a way of deciding what components should ship JavaScript and how it should become interactive. So it's pretty cool how it works. Client load basically just loads JavaScript to all the components that have that one. Client idle is going to wait for the main browser thread to be free and then start shipping JavaScript. So it's for like lower priority things. Client media, that's that I use a lot. It's actually for mobile phones, for instance. It takes in a CSS media query, so only ship JavaScript if the screen width is less than 900 pixels, and then I can only hydrate my buttons on my phone, and I never have it on my desktop anyways, which is amazing. And client only, that's like an outlier. You basically use that for shipping libraries. Like for instance, you want to use some React 3 fiber and how it's going to work with React. Well, then you just use client only, which skips out of the compilation process of completely. With a little bit of those client directives magic, you can move basically or transform that static MPA, multi-page application, into something that feels way more like an SPA, but it's not necessarily. So here we can just the header with the buttons that we do. We have a sidebar, maybe that's collapsible. Image sliders always are requiring some JavaScript to shift things. All of this you can do with CSS, I know, but I'm not going to put my time into that because it is way easier in JavaScript. And that ID we call islands, because as you can see, all of those are bordered. That's what we call an island. You cannot get out of that island. So there is no interactivity in between multiple islands. You can do that, but then you're building a store or something, or a database, doesn't really matter. Now, the cool thing is that all this that I've shown, that works with basically library that is available. So if you want to use React, you can. If you want to use Vue, you can. You want to use Svelte, you can. The great thing about that island architecture is that, of course, since it's only an island, you can use ones for multiple islands. Maybe the image slider, I have a great Vue library for, I'll install that. Or maybe the collapsible sidebar was a React library. Well, I can do that. It's not micro frontends, to be honest, to be clear as well. It's just a way that we ship libraries, so it's different. It's not micro frontend. You can technically do it, but meh. Now, if you ever have heard about Astro, this all shouldn't be new. This is basically there since the pre-alpha days that we built it. The Astro 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Basically, all of those were exactly like I described. And still, all of that is true. We're now at Astro 5 for the people that don't know. And we have a lot of new things and new things that are basically unknown. People always say like, hey, Astro is for static websites only and it's only for blogs and personal websites. It's kind of true. It's kind of true, but not completely, because we have shipped some amazing features in Astro 5 over the last year. And the first one is on-demand rendering. So Astro, as I was telling you, was a compilation process. So basically it outputted static HTML files. Well, not, or it used to be static first. What you can do now is just say, hey, pre-render false. And then you have a fully server-side render page. So that means it used to be in Astro 1, if I display new current time on the build, well, on the page, then it was always the same time, the build time. But now it will always get updated on each refresh. So basically a normal, think of it like PHP, same thing. But you get a lot of goodies with that, because you can now use cookies, for instance. You can use response headers. Maybe you want to have some cache headers or whatever. You have way more control, or maybe HTML streaming. It's all in there. And that's a new feature that is vastly underused, in my opinion. The only downside is that it's only working on some runtimes, like for instance Bun, not yet, but it's working on Cloudflare, on Vercel, on Netlify, all of those. The second thing that I really loved was server islands. We already spoke about client islands, the ones that imagine the border, right? Well, we can do the same thing, but we do it on a server. So a server island is basically a normal rendered Astro component on the server. That is basically instructed to delay its rendering until whatever the component is fetches. So your page is always rendered instantly, but your content might come in a little bit later. And I'll give you a clear example here. So it's called server defer, which is basically, hey, server delay. That's what it means. You just put that in your component. In this case, it's an avatar component because I want my avatars from GitHub. So here you can get the avatar URL from the user avatar, and maybe that's a very slow process and GitHub is not resolving very properly. Well, then I can have a fallback as well. And what this then actually does is this. So you can see that here on the top, that's a server island, and this on the bottom is a server island. So what it's doing, maybe there is a very complicated algorithm going on to check how much rooms are still there, what's the cheapest price, what is related to this. Ideally, it should be cached and blah, blah, blah. But We're a startup, we don't have time for that. Well, with Server-defer, you can instantly create a better user experience without having the content layout shift. Remember that when you click websites and suddenly all the ads started popping in and your web page was on the bottom again and you had to scroll and then suddenly click 5 ads? Well, that fixes it. Or at least it tries to, because it's not an ideal solution for everything, of course, but it's all fun and games. So the content layer API, Astro drives on content. That's very clear. We've made that our thing. It used to be only Markdown collections. So you can write your blog in Markdown. It will automatically render the HTML. Cool stuff, not that special. It was amazing DX, but we've evolved. Now we have a content layer API that everybody can build on. Basically, you can do JSON, you can do schemas, everything you like. You can create your own loaders, basically. Or load content from other sources as well. So in this case, it's just a fetch that goes to the countries and it puts them in a collection. Why would we do that? Well, not to have the fetch every request that we need to countries. That makes sense. Why not put them in the database? Database is also way slower. This is just in memory. And it feels like it's the database because you can query them like a database. That's because the Astro Content Layer API provides that for you. So that's nice. The cool thing is, this is one that I helped build. This is the Cloudflare, Cloudinary loader that I built. It's pretty good. And the fun thing is, I don't know if anybody has used Cloudinary. It's basically a bucket with all of your images and files. So you can get them from there. And so now I can actually use my files and my images of food in this case. I can get them like I would do it with a database, but all in memory, so way faster. So you can use them formally. It's like there you can see get the collection, get the assets, loop over them, done. That's how I do my collections now. It's way faster. The cool thing is we completely open sourced this API for everybody to use. And I think in 1 week, we had already a Notion database. So Notion instantly published one. So now I can query my Notion databases, my Notion pages, and everything else in one go just by importing 2 keys and this loader. It's really handy because maybe a lot of big companies have all their data in Notion or whatever else knowledge base you use. You have that in Astro and maybe you want to query it there or do something with it. Maybe have an interface open for the public for certain pages. This can do it. Or RSS feeds. You want to track them on your website. You want to share them somewhere. You're making an app that's a little bit more static and faster. Can do it. Has anybody worked with Stripe already? No one? One? Okay. Stripe is super annoying to work with and very, very painful in every way of how it works. Well, they built a Stripe loader, and now it's actually super easy because you have 2 collections, basically your products and your prices, and you can compare them. Done. Very fast. You don't have to do 15 API calls for every fetch. It can get very messy. This makes it a little bit more clean. Same like a CMS. Maybe you want to have some pages in a CMS like Strapi or whatever else CMS. We'll talk a little bit about React Bricks because that's totally different. But it's way easier. So this way I can use my content in my Astro website with just a collection. And they feel very easy because this is basically how it works. And you can mix and match multiple sources as well. Maybe I want the Notion loader to get one thing, but maybe I want to use the Stripe one for something else. Totally doable. Astro Actions is also really amazing. I don't know if you've ever used React Actions, Next.js Actions, sorry. Server Actions, they call it actually, but it's basically the same idea. The cool thing is in Astro, you can do it, of course, in multiple languages at the same time. So how does it work? You define an action, and an action is basically a one-time thing that is supposed to do something. And what that is, you can do. Typically, what I use it for is handling form data because it's way easier. That way, you don't have to expose an API endpoint to the public because it's basically just an API, but it's handled all internally. So no CSRF tokens, no API keys. It's all internal and never exposed to the public, which cleans up your API endpoint if you are effectively using an API as well. So let's give an example for validating form data. This is what it might look like in HTML. This is just an email sign-up, I think, where you have to assign the terms as well. So how would we approach that? It's quite easy because in the action, we have the nice thing that we can just say, hey, this is a Zod validation schema. I don't know if you've ever used Zod. It's basically an input validator, and you can use it with TypeScript as well. So it's very DX friendly. And so in this case, it will always throw an error if the Boolean is not clicked. We can handle with that how we want. Like we can throw exceptions there. We can do stuff and give it back to the front end. but it's really easy because what we need to do, if we want to do it in just normal script, this is normal JavaScript, this is not an Astro component, then we can just import the action, run the action, take the data, not that hard. But also, since Astro, I think 5.12, I think, you can also just do actions.logout, and it will work instantly because it will automatically, behind the scenes, convert form data and stuff for you. So pretty easy. And if there is an error, you can just reroute and navigate and do stuff with it. That's cool. But then we got into the thing like, hey, we also have this really cool stuff now, server actions. And we were starting to sound like a little bit like Laravel and a little bit like the PHP frameworks. We're actually quite close if you think of it as like from an architectural standpoint. So we thought like, okay, maybe we should have something with a database because everybody needs a database at some point and maybe doesn't want to have a second API that can actually build a database. So what we did was we built a first-party database API called Astro DB. It's based on LibSQL. I don't know if you know that. It's SQLite, but from Terso, the group that built it. And it's actually pretty easy, in my opinion. I think it's even easier than Prisma or Drizzle. It is based on Drizzle. We use it under the hood as well, but it's a little bit more syntactic sugar. For instance, here you just say, hey, I have a database with 2 tables, or 1 table in this case, and that's the comment, I think. Yeah, it has 2 columns, text and text. Easy. Done. And then you can just put it in the database, and you can query it like this. Super easy. You can define relations as well. It's not meant to have like big scale-up applications, for sure, but maybe for your own blog or marketing website, it's more than enough. For instance, what I use it for, or have used it for in the past, is keeping logs in there, or maybe users, signups, likes. You have newsletter signups. You can keep the emails in there as well. You don't have to go to APIs and such. And as I mentioned, it's built by the guys of Terso. Well, they built the database. We built the database API. And it's hosted by them as well. Really cool. And of course, that's not everything. This is basically only the last few features that I found very interesting. There is a couple of more things going on under the hood, of course, like performance gains here and there and feed upgrades and stuff. That's not really important. But what is next for Astro? Where do we go? Well, Astro 6, of course. It is on the way. We're building on it. It's been in the works. It's probably still going to take, I would say, 3-4 months. But we're working on it. And there is no official date yet. Can I announce some features? No, sadly not yet. But what I can announce is it is more stable. It will be faster and better DX as usual. Upgrading is also super easy in Astro projects. So Astro is amazing, right? Yeah, good. Okay, well, learning too. And this is a little bit more of a personal thing that I want to say. As you have seen in the beginning, if you saw my intro slide, I speak at a lot of events. I do a lot of events. I organize a lot of events. I love community. At Astro, when I worked there in the core team, my job was community engineer as well. So I worked fully on community. And also I got in open source because of community. And there's Astro, but also because I wanted fun. And do it for fun. I was actually talking literally this morning with some people here. And sometimes in harsh times like this, like for now the market, you probably all know, it's kind of rough. It's not that easy. And a lot of people seem to get in tech just for the money, which is fine by me. It's totally understandable. You want to live a comfortable life. Me too. It's all great. But do it for fun in general, because that's when stupid projects get born. And I am great at stupid projects. This is the talk that I did in, I think, React Day Berlin. I don't know, probably none of you were there, but it was pretty cool. It's basically what I did is a website, but it's completely driven by MIDI. So MIDI is a protocol that can interact with musical instruments, basically digitally. So you can see the keyboards there, and I touch them actively, and then suddenly my website changes. That's a thing. Also, I hate doing meetings, and I hope you do too. I built something that's called Meeting Excuse Generator, and it will generate random excuses that you can send to your boss. It has a paid plan where you have history and such, all built for a joke, of course. But while I was building this, I learned how to work with Paddle, which is a payment provider. I learned how to work with ChatGPT APIs. I did Laravel, I think, all of that stuff. So I use my stupid projects as a way of learning, and I think we all should do that. And that's my second point. I organize a lot of conferences, and I want you to give talks as well. Not just you, I mean, but in general, people should give more talks. We do it. We're not gods. We're just also very stupid people that make a lot of faults all the time. But you should really try it. And if you don't know where to start, talk to somebody that is actively speaking, somebody that also wants to get into speaking, all of that stuff, because everybody is really open and approachable. You don't have to be scared of that. And now that you have gained all this knowledge about Astro, I'm sure you can totally build your own website in it. And then, of course, your best friend's mom asks you, hey, you're in IT, right? You can do a lot of cool things. Can you fix my printer? Fuck no! It happens all the time. But that's not what I wanted to say. That was clearly a joke. But they will ask you, hey, you're a website engineer, you're a backend developer, you're a developer, whatever. I need a website for my business, and I will pay you whatever. And of course, you can build it. You know Astro, maybe you know React, maybe you know even Java Spring Boot. All of it is websites. It's all fine. And then, of course, WordPress. Because, of course, they need to edit it. Well, and I will explain you why this is so close to my heart. That's why I built React Bricks. And I'll show you why and how it's relevant to the whole philosophy that I was just explaining. Because React Bricks is actually pretty cool. Mirroring my screen here. Give me just a little second. Mirror. All right. Top. There you go. So I'm basically just going to set up a new project here. Let's hope the Wi-Fi also works a little bit with us. I'm already logged in, so that should be fine. I built that CLI, so I really hope it works. Let's call it Porto. That should be fine. Porto is good. Yep. Website and blog with Tailwind. And I'm going to choose Astro, of course, because it's relevant to this talk. I will have some default content on there because I don't want to build everything from scratch just for a simple 5-minute example. Yeah, NPM is probably going to take a while here, I think. Let's hope. Come on. Anybody has a good joke in the meantime? Well, I should have done this in advance, I think. Whoops. Well, I can already open it in VS Code probably. Then the demo doesn't get held up. So open my folder. It should be under there we go. Is this light mode too light for you all? Probably it is. Okay. That's better. Okay, let me check. Okay, we're there. Perfect. So, first of all, I'm going to run my dev server, npm run dev. It will start on the normal Astro port, which is 4321. I'll make it a little bit bigger for you. Let's open it in the browser. All right, now we have our full website. So this is a React Bricks website. And of course, this is just a normal website. What is actually cool about this is that I can edit my content. Hey, WordPress, cool. Yeah, it's the same idea, but it's way, and I will explain and show you why, because I know you're all staring like, huh? What is better about this? Well, you'll see. So, Elian codes, no, Elian at React Bricks, I think. I do know my own email normally. I have two-factor authentication, that is true. Gotta keep it safe. All right, so this is what it looks like. This is the interface. This is what the admin is on WordPress as well, or other CMSs. But in this case, I can say, hey, this is my homepage. Okay, cool. I can edit my text just like I would normally do. I can say, hello, Porto, and save that, and that will work. Cool, I just have a visual CMS, not that special. Well, it's not, because this is actually all React custom built components that you control yourself and also can publish as libraries. And that's where the cool thing comes in. So if I just go to and I see React Bricks, this is basically what we're doing. This is my heroes, my contact stuff, and this is all just normal React components that I can write myself. And I will show it to you. So if I build a new custom brick, let's say I want a counter in React like that, I can also just type brick, and then I have a brick. Okay, that's great. I'll import it, whoops, in my index. Let's make it like the hero section, doesn't really matter. So install the counter, save, and if I go back now in my editor, I should be able to add a new brick that is called counter. That is exactly the brick that I've built right now. Of course, it doesn't do anything yet. What can I do in my brick? I can do basically everything. So the text might be there, but maybe I also want a button that on click says click. Let's not do that. Let's just build a fucking counter like all examples in React. That's amazing. And let's have a normal state there as well. So const, let's say count set counts. Wow, crazy. And then I'll put p element with the count, and let's also make a class name to do text XL. Set the counts. Okay, there we are. So now you can already see that my component has updated. So I, as a developer, have full control over what my bricks look like. Styling, how they interact, all of that stuff. Now, the thing is that this actually, if I go to the non-logged in version, which is this one, you'll see that it actually doesn't work, the buttons. That's because of the whole Astro philosophy. I haven't added the client directive, so it's not working. So what I can do now, I'll put it somewhat bigger because I know like I'm pressing very small buttons here. If I go to my props here and I just say Astro interactivity, load, idle, remember those ones, media? They're all there. And now if I reload my page, it's actually working. So I have built a fully custom CMS now that you can actually use as a developer and your marketeers can use as well. Because I can just say, hey, I develop my bricks in React and I ship them to you and you can use them however you want, like, and you can still just custom code everything, which is a lot of fun. At least for me, because WordPress is not my thing. Elementor, it's really cool. It's just not for me. I can be a little bit more in deep here because I can inspect actually what my client directives do. And I can leverage the power of Astro inside of CMS, inside of Astro, which is... that's basically all I wanted to show you. This is a very simple example. If you want to get more in like React Brick stuff or Astro stuff or React stuff, come talk to me, look it up online. There is more than enough resources there. So all I want to say is thank you very much. If you want to stay updated, go to astro.build, the chat, which is the Discord of Astro. You can do a lot of stuff there. reactbricks.com or find me somewhere on socials with @Elian Codes. Thank you, everybody. Is there anybody with a question? Yeah? Mm-hmm.
What familiar with it?
No, I'm not.
So it's like a CMS, like you were showing, where I could edit content, and I work in a gaming company, and we needed to do like help pages, like with tutorials for the games.
Yep.
And I was wondering if I could use this, but I would need to link like a game ID so that if a client queried the list of games, it will render that detail.
Yep.
Will I be able to do it here?
Yes, because this is still just Astro. Even the admin pages is all just an Astro page. So if I go here in pages and you see admin, it's still all just wrapped components that are Astro. So I can technically just make a new /API page, for instance, and just use TypeScript there or something else, or maybe an Express server somewhere. You can have it all running in the same instance. I can make a static Astro or React website here, a page here as well. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
No worries. That's it. All right. All good. If you have any other questions, then you can come ask me. Thank you.